now if I'm moving to the right, I knock back to the left. If I'm moving to the left, I knock back to the right, which is quite nice. Hey guys, welcome back to another tutorial. In this episode, I'm going to show you how to use a simple effect to create a really nice looking take damage effect. Now, I've got a little guy here that I've made, and he has different colors all over the sprite, and sometimes it can be quite an arduous task to create a second animation and make it a damage animation and change all the different colors. And there's a simpler way to do it, I think, and I think it looks pretty decent. And the way I'm going to do that is by adding an effect to this player. So if I click on Effects, go Add New Effect. The effect we're looking for is Inverse. And this is going to change his colors to invert colors, and I'm going to disable that to start with. I'm going to go ahead and get the background color off-white slightly so we can kind of see this in all its glory. So I'm going to go ahead and use a kind of sky blue color for that. Then if I put the, there we go, the inverse back on, it's going to invert the colors. And I'm going to say now that when I touch this spike, we're going to take some damage. We're going to invert that color, and it's going to look like he's taken some damage. So what I'm going to need to do to make that work is add an event and say player on collision with another object. And we're going to say spike. We're going to say, in fact, we're going to use a function for this because we're going to be calling it multiple times throughout the game. I'm going to call it player damage. I'm going to go ahead and say add action, and I'm going to say player, set effect enabled, and we're going to call that one inverse, which it is. Then we're going to say system, and we're going to wait 0.2 seconds, and then we're going to set it back to disabled. So now every time I touch that thing, I am going to take a little bit of damage. Or am I? I need to call the function. So we're going to say call player damage. That would help. There we go. So every time we touch that spike now, we're going to take some damage for 0.2 seconds, and it looks kind of pretty. But at the moment, I can still use the controls, and if I stay within the spike, it doesn't really work. So we're going to need to add a little bit of knockback to make this thing a little bit more pleasing to the eye. So what I'm going to need to do is I wanted to create a group for movement. At the moment, I've got default controls down, so I'm just going to quickly skip ahead and add in the movement controls for the player. So there we go. I've put left and right simulated controls on the left and right arrow keys in a group called movement, and I've disabled the default controls on the sprite. So now I should be able to still move left and right using the arrow keys, which is fine. And now what I can do when we touch this spike is I can go system and I can disable that player group. Set group active, and that group is going to be called movement. We're going to deactivate it. So the moment we touch that spike, we're going to deactivate the movement, and now we're going to add in a player set x vector to player.x minus 200. So where he is right now, 200 back. And then we're going to go ahead and reactivate that group. So let's change that to minus 400. There you go. So you can see I'm bouncing off of it. 400 is probably a little bit weak. Let's try and double that up to 800. And let's add in some vertical knockback as well and go player, set y vector to minus 200. There we go. So now when we touch it, we bounce back. Perfect. Now, if we're moving the other way, we need to do the same thing. So let's go ahead and create a couple of sub-events on here. And we are going to say if key left is down and key right is down. Don't need that one there. So we're going to say if key right is down, we're going to add in, let's add in another sub-event, a blank sub-event. We've already got one, a blank sub-event under. And put the remainder of that block underneath because we want these two to happen first. So let's go ahead and put those vector movements in if moving right, add those vector movements in if moving the other way, but this time without a minus, except for the Y, because obviously that's moving up. Then the rest of the code can activate, and that's what was going to happen when we call that player damage function. I need a control in here for jumping, so I'm going to go ahead and use up arrow. And I'm going to simulate jump, still within that movement group because this is the group we want to disable at the beginning and then re-enable after the 0.2 seconds. And as always, a extra special thank you and a shout out to my wonderful Patreon supporters: Foozle CC, Retro Galaxy, Olivia Bernier, Amari Lewis, Enmark Games, Jess Matt, Tor, Alex Anderson, Rob, Jared Demont, Martin K, Julian Cruz, Ralson Gonzalo, 8-Bit Gamer, Davey Ragnarok, John Allegrezza, and Joey. Thanks for supporting the game dev journey, and if you want to find out about what's on offer on the Patreon, there's a link in the description.